Okay, so I want to talk about PowerPoint Module 2. And the first thing that I actually want to do before I do that is I want to finish up Module 1. There was only one page that I needed to finish up, and that's printing. Now, when we print a PowerPoint module, we can go to File, Print. I have on my Quick Access toolbar. Ooh, let me share my screen. I have on my Quick Access toolbar that button, which I added, which is the Print, Preview, and Print button. So if I click on that, it just takes me there. So it makes my life a little bit easier because it's only one click instead of two. Now, this is fairly standard here, except for this right here, where it says full page. What do I want to print, basically, is what this is asking me. And full page slide, so I can print one per slide, or I can print an outline view. So you can see here an outline view is just the text that is on my slides. That is useful for editing purposes, so that you kind of get rid of the distraction of all the graphics and stuff, and you can focus in on what's on, what's on each slide. Next, we have handouts. These are things that you would print out and then give to the audience. So you could do 2 pages per slide. You could do 4 pages per slide. And 4 pages per slide gives the user some, or the person that you hand it out to, some room to take notes. But even better is the 3 slides, because it has lines that it creates next to each slide so that the person who has the handout can take notes easily. So that's an important one. The other important one is the notes pages. Now the notes pages will print a slide, and then it will print all of your notes. Let me go back and add some fake notes to my slides here. So I'm going to click this little notes button down here at the bottom, and that opens the notes pane in PowerPoint, and I can change the size of that. And I'm just going to add some nonsense here, just some random stuff. I want to show you how things, I got to type faster, how things print out on the notes pages and what it looks like. Now, notes pages are super useful because normally, as the presenter or the person talking, we need to have some kind of notes for us. And so we typically write them on index cards or note cards. And what ends up happening is if we have a lot, is our writing tends to get worse as we get closer to the end. I only have 10 more index cards that I need to fill out, so we start writing a lot faster. And that makes it harder for us to read when we're actually nervous and giving the presentation. So this alleviates a lot of those problems. In A, since we type it, it's easy to read. B, the notes for a particular slide are on the same piece of paper as that slide. Now, if I had more notes and it went off the edge of the end of the page here, it would just print a page of notes. But as I'm going through it, it's much easier to shuffle through than note cards are, doing this. And it's very easy for me to know what slide I should be on, what the presentation should be showing us. Here, let me go to the first slide, which is my title slide, and you can see that the notes printed out. And you can have quite a few notes. It fits on one page, and you can do more. It'll just move on to the next page, but you can get a lot of notes on just one piece of paper with a slide. I'm sorry, I moved that on accident. So now, there's my second slide. There are my notes. Now my third slide doesn't have any notes, and my fourth slide doesn't, but this is much easier to work with, right? Usually on a note card, you have slide 1, slide 1, slide 1, slide 1, slide 2, and you have to remember where to change the slide, because we need to keep the PowerPoint presentation up with what it is that we're talking about. And so a lot of times, you know, what happens is you skip it. You're reading and you're nervous and you're looking down and you're looking at your audience, and then you skip moving the slide and you start talking and you keep talking, and then you notice at some point, like, oh crap, I need to change the slide to the next slide. This makes all of that so much easier. So use the notes. It's one of the most helpful things in PowerPoint. So I'm going to get rid of the notes pane. And by the way, you can resize it. Right, so I can drag it up and down if I get on that border, but I can also make it go away completely by clicking on that bottom little taskbar kind of area, and that closes the notes view. Okay, so that was the very end of the first module. So let's talk about the second module. And in the second module, we're going to be formatting and modifying a presentation. And so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to use Smart Art. Now remember that on slides, there are placeholders for different kinds of content placeholders. Now this is a text box, and this is now a text box because I typed text into it. But let's say that I want to take this bulleted list, which I have right here, and I want to convert it to Smart Art. Now I could highlight this by clicking and dragging, or remember that you can click on the actual placeholder border and change it from a dotted line or dashed line to a solid line. And then whatever it is that you do will be applied to everything in that placeholder. So I'm going to click on this control here, which is convert to Smart Art. It's on the home ribbon in the paragraph group. And Smart Art is basically just a way to graphically show or emphasize some text. And so there are different ways. So if I just mouse over some of these, you can see how it makes the text more interesting. And sometimes if it's a timeline like this, right here, then it helps illustrate that this comes first, this comes second, this comes third. Now I'm supposed to pick one of these and click off of it. And then I'm supposed to say to myself, ooh, I don't like this. So let me change it. So I can do that by clicking on it and going to the Smart Art Tools design ribbon and just changing the layout. I can just pick one of these layouts. I'm supposed to eventually pick this one, so that's what I'm going to go with. And then I'm going to modify it. So the first thing I'm going to do is on the right-hand side is I have some Smart Art styles now, and I'm supposed to pick Inset. I can show you more. There's a whole bunch more. I'm supposed to pick, which one? This one, Inset. So I'll click on that one. I could also change the colors if I wanted to. And the color palette is from what's being used right now. So it has to do with my, my theme. Oops, click here. So there's my Smart Art. What am I supposed to do with it? I was supposed to use the pyramid list, which I did. Insert effect. I think I'm good. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create our own shapes. And so I'm going to pick up slide 3 here, and I'm going to go to the drawing group on the home ribbon, and you can see that I have some shapes here. Now I'm supposed to use this first one, which is the arrow pentagon, but I just want to show you all of the different shapes that are available. So I'm going to pick this, and I'm going to click and draw, and you can see if I just click and draw, I can make this any shape that I want to. Now there is a way for me to take this if I hold down the Shift key, and now I can only draw it proportionally. And this is actually better illustrated if I show you a rectangle, because there is no square shape. So a rectangle I can draw, and I can make it any shape that I want to. But if I want it to be a square, I hold down the Shift key. So let me hold down Shift, and now you can see that the sides are equidistant. And as I drag, all it's basically doing is changing the size. The same thing with a circle. A circle you create by actually picking the oval shape. And again, I could draw an oval any shape that I wanted to. But if I hold down Shift, oops, if I hold down Shift, oh, I got to delete this. Control Z, there we go. If I hold down the Shift key, now it just lets me create a perfect circle of whatever size I want. So as I'm dragging, it's just changing the size. By the way, this works for, rectangles with rounded corners. If I want a square, I hold down Shift, so now I get a square with rounded corners. It works with most of the objects. If I hold down Shift, it keeps it in proportion. So most of those, the Shift key works. Now, with this shape, when I select it, there's this little resizing handle right here that has a yellow dot in it. That lets me reshape this pointed end. So I can make this I can make it a pyramid, right? But I can make it a lot more pointy just by dragging that yellow bit, or I can make it less pointy. So I think I'm supposed to put it right about there. So that's where I'm going to put it. So I'll click off of that. I get to see what it looks like. Yes. So I'm going to select it again because I'm going to create an outline. I'm going to do a fill color for this. So let's do a fill color. So I'm going to click on this. It's selected. It is a shape. So I'm going to go to my Format Drawing Tools, and I'm going to go right here, right in the top middle, Shape Fill. It's in the Shape Styles area, and I'm supposed to pick that. Then I'm going to do a shape outline, and I can have a solid line, or I can have a dashed line, and you can't really see it. Let me do shape outline colors. Let me do this in white, and then let me do shape outline. Now, as I pick these different ones, you kind of see that it's changing the outline. I'm supposed to do long dashes, so I'm going to pick that one. And then if I click off it, you can see, oh, I was able to do that. Now I'm going to do a shape style here from the Format ribbon. I'm actually going to pick a style. I'm supposed to pick Intense Effect, Gold Accent 4. Oh, I'm supposed to pick that one. And I don't know if you can notice this, but let me click off of it. You can see that there's like a little, it's gotten rid of my previous formatting. This is shaded, it's lighter at the top than it is at the bottom, and it's got a little kind of a 3D effect on the edge. I'm supposed to add a effect to this, so I'm going to highlight it and go Shape Effects, and I'm supposed to do a reflection. And see, you can already see a reflection showing up, and it wants tight reflection touching. So I think it wants that one. So I'm going to click on that, and you can see that there's a little reflection down here, and it's touching the bottom of my graphic. So let's, did I make that too big? I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to click off of it, see what I got. Looks okay. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to rotate it. So with this selected and the Format ribbon and my drawing tools selected, there's a rotate button here. So I can rotate this in different directions and I can flip it. So what am I actually supposed to do? I'm supposed to flip horizontal. The other way to rotate it is to drag this circular thing. And notice how my shadow is changing. What am I supposed to do? Undo. Control Z, by the way, is the easiest way to do undo. I'm going to change the shape. So if I don't like, I've created a shape and I don't like it, but it is kind of the right size, or it's kind of sort of what I want, I just don't like it. Let me go back to the home ribbon and no, let me go here and go to my format and say, edit shape, change shape. Okay, so what am I supposed to change it to? A frame. A frame, which I think is this one. Frame, yes. So I'm supposed to change it to a frame. Notice it did it. And notice also that there's an insertion point inside the frame now that I can easily see. So I can type something in there. Yeah, so I think I'm good. For some reason, I'm supposed to delete a slide. So I'm good here. I have my shape. And notice how the shadow, the effects that I applied to my previous shape are applied to this shape. So it still has the touching shadow at the bottom. It still has, I got to click off of that. There we go. It still has those borders, the 3D effect on the kind of border. So there's that. Now, for some reason, I'm supposed to delete slide 5. So the easiest way to delete slide 5 is to select it. And then I could just press the delete button on the keyboard. I could right click on it and say delete slide. Yeah, what the heck, I'll do it that way. And it disappeared. So now I only have 4 slides left. So I'm going to create a different shape, and then I'm going to merge some shapes together. You have to do this for your project where you have to merge 2 shapes. So we have to be careful about what's on top and what's below and all that kind of stuff. So here, first I need to create the new shape. So let's see, what am I supposed to do? Let me move this. There we go. And let me pause and read this really quickly. And then I'll know exactly what it is I'm supposed to be doing, instead of just kind of fumbling through it. Okay, so I'm back. I got a little bit confused as to what it is that I was supposed to do, so I took some time to read exactly what it wanted. And basically what it wants me to do is it wants me to resize the placeholder for this text down here. So I'm going to drag this because I'm going to put some shapes over here, and so I don't want them kind of over or in the placeholder. So I'm just going to drag that, drag that till the border is right about there. So that basically I'm just resizing the placeholder. I could do the same up here, I guess. There we go. I don't know where the shapes are supposed to go. So now I'm going to add a new shape. So I'm going to create a new shape, and then we're going to work with merging them and making this look really funky. So let's go to the drawing group right here. And then I'm supposed to pick a pentagon, which is that one. And so I'm going to create a pentagon, and I want to create a perfect one. So I'm going to hold down my shift key, and then I'm supposed to draw it till it's about that big, I think. Now I have 2 different shapes. So now I'm going to drag this on top of my other shape. Now I want to center this shape. I want to center the pentagon on this frame. And here it's a little bit difficult to see because of the background color. But as I drag this across or around on my slide even, you're going to see these little red dashed lines show up. And those are called smart guides. And so as I move this over my other object, you can see that I have a smart guide that's showing, I have two smart guides. One is showing me that it's centered top to bottom, and one is showing me that it's centered left to right on the other object. When I let go of the mouse button, those smart guides go away. So now my pentagon is on top of my other object. So remember that we're stacking stuff now. And so what I actually want to do is I want to send the pentagon back behind the other object. So I'm going to select it. And then if you look in the format ribbon for the drawing tools, there's a button here that says send backwards. Now my pentagon is selected, so it should send it backwards. See, now you can see that the frame is over the top of it, so it sent it behind. Now I want to select both shapes. So how do I select more than one item? Well, I'm going to actually use the control key, even though the book says use the shift key. I like using the control key. So I'm going to click on this one, and now you can see, by the way, what's the difference between shift and control when you're selecting stuff? Shift lets you select things that are close to each other, whereas control lets you select, I could select immediate effects and low overhead. Control lets you select things that are not necessarily next to each other. You can still select stuff that's next to each other if you want. But I have both of my objects selected. I know that because I have the selection or the resizing handles for both of them are showing. So what I want to do now is I'm going to merge these shapes together. So that's over here in the Insert Shapes group. And see here it says Merge Shapes. And I can create a union like that, so that combines them. Or this is a weird combine, fragment, intersection, so it only shows me where the two shapes intersect, or I can subtract. So I can get very interesting effects here. What I'm actually supposed to do is I'm supposed to show you what these things will do if I bring the pentagon forward. So I'm going to select the pentagon and bring it forward. And now I'm going to hold down Control again and select the frame also. And then I'm going to merge my shapes and see what I get now. I get kind of the same things. So why am I getting the same things? It depends on how I selected the objects too. So when I selected the frame first and then the pentagon, now when I do a union, it looks completely different. And when I do a combine or a fragment, and I'm supposed to use the subtract one here, I think. By the way, I can also merge shapes together. So I can go here and group these shapes like this. So now this is one shape. So I can move this as one without having to select multiples. Okay. Now I'm going to ungroup these because I did want to do the merge. And what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to do a subtract. So this is what I'm supposed to end up with. So there we are. I've done the subtraction here. And so now I have the shape that I want, although I think my shape differs a little bit from the one in the book. I think it's not as high, so I'm going to resize that a little bit. I think it's more like that. There we go. Okay, maybe I'm supposed to go aside it. Okay, so now remember that in Word we had a ruler at the top and the side. Which showed us kind of our margins and things like that. Well, I don't have a ruler here, but I should, if I want one, I can just go to the view ribbon here and look, it says ruler. And now it's showing me, and by the way, the ruler is a little bit weird because the center of the slide is 0. So it's like a grid. It has a x-axis and a y-axis, and the center point is 0, 0. And I don't know if you can see this, but on the ruler, as I move my cursor around, it moves around on the rulers. It's showing me where the cursor is on the ruler. I'm trying to get this as close to 0, 0 as I can. So that's really close. The pointy bit of that, that's the center of my slide, top to bottom and left to right, or very, very close. So when we have rulers, you can use that to kind of navigate around. The other thing that we can do is we can put grid lines on my slide so I can really kind of figure out where I want stuff to go. Or I can just have the center guides, which is center, horizontal, and vertical. So that's an easy way to see where the midpoint of my slide is, because all I got to do is get my cursor right there. And wow, I'm really close with my cursor. Okay, so anyway. So yeah, I'll leave the, well, should I leave the guides? I'll leave the guides on for now. So I'm supposed to drag it. What am I supposed to do here? Drag the middle right sizing. Okay, I just resizing it, which I already did. Okay, so I'm going to take this shape and I'm going to position it over the left edge of the selected frame here. And then I'm going to drag this to the 0, 0 position. Here. So that the bottom right corner is at 0, 0. That's the middle end of the slide, both top to bottom and left to right. Now, let's say that I want to make a copy of this. So the way that we all know how to make a copy is you highlight it, you right click, you press copy, then you press paste, right? But there's an easier way with shapes. Basically, if I select it and get that moving shape, like I can move it around, if I hold down the control key and then I click and drag, look, it's created an exact copy. And I can do it again. It's created an exact copy. So if you hold down control, so you get to where you're going to move a shape, hold down control, click and drag, you got a copy. Easy. Easy as pie. So I'm going to press delete because I only need 3. Okay. What else am I supposed to do? Oh, I'm not going to do the alignment yet. Now they want me to type something in here. Oh, by the way, I should move these around a little bit so that they're not aligned. I happen to align them perfectly because I'm just that good. So I'm going to do that. And then they want me to type some things into these. So trends, supply, and growth. So I'm going to click on this first one here to select it. Oh, come on. And then I'm going to type trends. See, it shows up in the middle. Now I'm going to click here and type, I've forgotten what it is I need to type. Trends, supply, growth. Supply. I'll click down on this one and just start typing growth. There we go. So now these shapes are useful. And now I'm going to align and group these shapes together. So how am I supposed to align it? So now they want grid lines. So I'm going to put some grid lines here. Let's just click on the view menu. The book does say to right click and to click here and guide, smart guides, grid lines. You can pick it from here, but just by right clicking. But you can always go to the view menu, the view ribbon, and go to the show group, and you'll see it there. So let's see where I'm supposed to put these. So the trends one, the trend shape, I'm just supposed to drag it until it snaps into place. By the way, when you get lined up on a couple of grid lines, it will kind of snap into that place. Next, I'm going to take the which one I'm going to take? Did I do guides? I have guides. Yes, I do have guides. Notice how if I go over one of my guides, so here's the center guide, I can actually get on that and click it and drag it to a certain position. So I can use that guide not only as the center of my slide, but I can put it wherever I want it. And so here they want me to drag it until the guide says 1.83. So they want me to move it over an inch and almost 2 inches. So oh, I had it there. There it is. So that's where I want that guideline. I'm going to get rid of my grid lines here because they're being noisy. Okay. So I'm going to move my trends so that it kind of snaps into place to the left on this guideline that I moved. Okay. I'm going to do supply and put it there. And I'm going to do growth. So I'm supposed to drag the horizontal guide to the middle of the slide until its guide position box reads. Oh, okay. So never mind. Here's another thing that I can do. Instead of dragging these, so let me just put these wherever I want them to be. And I'm supposed to drag this back to 0, 0. So there. Now, oh, and this is supposed to be up a little bit higher. Oh, the horizontal guide and the vertical guide. So this was supposed to be 183. So there. And this one was supposed to be up 183. there. And so I want this shape to be right in this corner. Now it says go ahead and put them back where they were. So I'll go ahead and do that. There we go. And there we go. Now, the rest of my shapes, I want to work with all three. And I want to align the left sides of, or the right sides, because they're all the same size, so it doesn't matter. I want to align the other two to the trends one. So I'm going to select this. Then I'm going to use my control key and select the other two, making sure that I selected the trends first, because that's the one I want the other two to align to. So I'm going to go to my format ribbon here, and over here on the left in the arrange group, there's an align thing, and I'm going to align these to the right hand side. Notice how now the right hand side of these things is lined up. By the way, I could have aligned the left side because they're all the same width, so it doesn't matter. The other thing that I want to do is I want to distribute these. Well, actually, I think I want to move this one down some. I think it's supposed to be down here. Yeah. So I'm going to select all three of these again. And now I'm going to align them, or I'm going to distribute them vertically. So basically, I'm going to even out the spacing between them. So in this case, only the middle one is going to move. See, and it moved. So now the spacing between all three of my objects is the same. Okay, so let's change the pages here. And then I think I'm happy. So that's what I'm supposed to have. Although I guess that one isn't supposed to be as far down as it looked on the previous page. It's supposed to be closer to up here. I think I better move this. It's supposed to be more like that. So control again. I'm going to make sure that these are aligned, distributed vertically. They weren't. And make sure that they're aligned with each other. Good. So they are. So now I'm happy. I like those. The next thing that I'm going to do, and the book is in love with headers and footers, so the next thing I'm going to do is add a footer. So I need to go to the insert ribbon, and in the text group, there is a header footer section. And if I click on it, it's a little bit different than in Word, and it's closer to what it is like in Excel. So here, I'm going to add the date and time. And I can have a fixed date, or I can have it updated automatically. Update automatically, and I want it to show up. I can have it formatted differently, and I'm supposed to pick the fourth one, 2, 3, 4, so that. English, good. I'm going to add a slide number to my slides. I'm also going to add a footer to my slides, and in the footer, I'm going to type my name. So here is a footer text box, and I can type whatever it is that I want here. So I'm going to type my name. That is my name. And then I'm going to say, don't show on the title slide. So I'm going to check that. And then I'm going to hit apply to all. See, my name shows up down here on the left. The date shows up down here on the right, and the slide number shows up. But not on my first slide. Here, let me get rid of my guides. There we go. So on my first slide, it doesn't show up because I checked that checkbox. On my second slide, it does show up. Slide 2, slide 3, slide 4. So that's headers and footers. I can click here on my first slide, go to insert, go to header footer and click on footer and erase this. Oh, I'm not going to say don't show on title slide because this is the title slide. And in the footer, I can put whatever I want. So here I want to say don't, oops, always looking forward. Capital L? Yes. And I'm not going to apply it to all. I'm just going to apply it to this slide. And so it shows up right here, always looking forward. So basically what I did was I created a footer section that all the rest of my slides had. My name was there and the page number and the date. I didn't apply it to the first slide, but I applied it to the rest of them. Then I went to the first slide and I created a unique footer for that first slide, and I only applied it to that slide. You could create a unique footer for all of your slides if you wanted to. Oh, now we're going to talk about, and this is the last part of Module 2, is slide transitions and timings. Now, slide transitions are basically what happens when we're in the slideshow and we go from one slide to the next. So let me go into slideshow view by clicking on the slideshow button and see here is the slideshow. And when I go from this slide to the next slide, there was really no transition. It just immediately goes. So, oops. We can apply transitions between slides. There's a whole transitions ribbon. And there are all kinds of different transitions that I can pick from. Now, there is really no transition for slide 1, but there is one from slide 1 to slide 2. But you can add one. So I'm going to show you where's the one that I like. I can do random in case I can't be bothered. Which one do I want? I want the push one. Okay, so I applied the push transition to slide 1. So when I enter my slideshow, you can see that's how it starts. That's the transition to slide 1. Also, if you look over here in the pane on the left side, you'll see right here that it says that there's an animation now attached to this, and I can click this to play it, and I can click it over and over again, and it'll play it over and over again. I don't know how a fade would work. Yeah, I don't like that. Reveal. Oh, maybe that one's good for the first slide. Okay. So let's just go with that for now. I can add a transition. And by the way, I've selected slide 2. So it's the transition to slide 2. And I'm going to pick a couple of ones here. Let's do an fracture. Now, with a transition, you can apply a duration, I should say. You can change the duration. So if I make this longer and I hit play, you will see that my fracture is slower. It's more slow motion. If I go and change this to 1 second, say, then obviously it's only going to take 1 second. So it's faster. Like the 2 second time frame. So that's good. So that's how we work with transitions. I can look at 3. I can use an airplane transition. Whoop. Let's do 4 and use the origami. Yeah, so it flies away. Each transition that you use has some effect options. So here I can go left or right, so I can have it fly out to the left or to the right. For the airplane, let's do a page curl. Yeah, so that's kind of like, I can do it, what's double left, double right, single left. What's double left? Ah, I see. It's kind of flipping the page in the book. So each one of these crush. Oh, that one doesn't have an effect option. That's it. With my fracture one, I don't have any effect options. So some of these don't have options. I kind of like that one, but I like the page curl. So you can always check what options you have depending on which effect you're using. Okay, so anyway, I'll just use the crush one. And so I'll select my slide one. I'll go into slideshow view so that I can see and preview my slideshow. And here's my first effect. So that's what happens when I start it. And I'm going to use the keyboard here, just use the space key. I go to my second slide. I go to my third slide, which is that other transition. And then there's the origami going. And then the last slide doesn't actually have a transition because it's not going to another slide. It's the end of the slideshow, so it just goes to a black screen. If I press the escape key, it takes me back to my normal view. Okay. So I think that's everything in module 2. I'm going to do module 3 in a few minutes. So I'll be wearing the same clothes. Okay, so again, remember that if you have any questions, you need any help with anything, I have office hours twice a week, and you can always email me. We can get together whenever you need. Okay, so good luck on this one, and I'll see you later. So let me stop the sharing. Let me stop the recording.